You're now ready to begin creating an activity within the Play ecosystem. And we've created a worksheet to help you along with that process. So we're going to walk through this worksheet now to give you an idea of what kind of information we need to create an activity. The great thing is that once you complete a worksheet for an activity, you're going to have everything in place that you need to create the activity inside the LMS. We're just doing all the upfront work here on the worksheet so that it's a much easier process when you get to the LMS. So let's take a look at the worksheet. First of all, you're going to use this worksheet for every activity, so you can either create multiple copies of this sheet or you can copy it within the sheet itself. Either way, you're going to make your own copy of this worksheet, and you can put multiple activities on the same worksheet if you like. So let's walk down through the information we need. We start with a game title. Remember, your activity is going to live within a game somewhere, some specific game that it will reside within. It also will live within a level and a mission. That hierarchy is always in place. So your activity will always have a home within a mission, within a level, and within a game. So we complete that information, and then that brings us to activities. So now we need an activity title. So whatever title you choose, that's up to you, but make it interesting and make it descriptive for that particular activity. The next piece we need is telling it whether or not this is a required activity or not. If we decide to make this a required activity, we put yes here. Remember, one of the concepts of our Play ecosystem is choice. And we want our learners to have options. We want them to be able to decide whether or not they're going to do certain activities. And we want to give them those options within our content. So here, you might want to consider, do I have certain requirements that I want them to do? And those would be my required activities. And then some that I want to leave as optional. And if it's an optional activity, I would leave this answer here as no. And that way, this would be a choice activity for your learner. The next piece is the catalog question. Should this activity be shared in the catalog? So what that means is if you say yes here, that actually makes your activity available to all users nationwide in the LMS that we use, the Alludo LMS. So in most cases, you're going to set this to no. And unless we have specific reason to share it, maybe we're creating this as an open education resource that we want to make available to the public, that would be when we would choose to share it in the catalog. In most cases, our content we keep protected, and we do not use that catalog to share. That doesn't mean that it does not go into our catalog on our for Play. It means that it just doesn't go into that global catalog for all users. The next step is time. Every activity needs an estimated time to complete. So with using your best judgment, decide whether it's a 15-minute, a 30-minute, a 45-minute, or so on, and use 15-minute increments. It's just easier to estimate that way. You're going to get close, and it makes it easier for calculation purposes to keep it within that 15-minute block. Remember, you don't want activities to be too big. We're doing micro-learning activities here, so keep it within reason. Yes, you may have an activity sometimes that goes beyond, goes a little longer, maybe 60 minutes, maybe a little bit more, but keep it under control and don't let these activities get too large, because then you're going to be asking too much of your learner in any one particular learning session. You can break things apart into pieces and do activities that string together, but just keep that in mind. So as you choose your time here, choose wisely. Put your time in here in terms of minutes, or if it's an hour, it would be 1 hour here, 1 with 2 zeros following. The next thing is to put points in. Points it's an equation. So if you have a 15-minute activity, that equals 25 points. 25 points for every 15 minutes. That means an hour-long activity would be 100 points. So you just do the math. If it's a 30-minute activity, again, it's 50 points. So put in the point value here, you're ready to go. Tags. So the next part of this, using tags just helps locate your activity in a search. If you want to tag what your activity is about using just single words, that would help a user who's in the system just searching for an activity on something specific. They could find it by just typing in that tag word. The next, you don't have, by the way, you don't have to use tags. It's okay if you don't put them in, it just helps in a search. Activity description is the next thing we're going to do, and this is one of the most important areas. Activity description is where you're telling the learners what they will be doing and how they'll be doing it. You can put text in here, you can drop an image, you can use links, any of the material that you need to show them what you want them to do, the information you want them to understand needs to go here. So essentially it's mapping out what the activity involves and then putting in any information you want. You'll see when we get into the LMS that the editor can accept just about any kind of content. It can be text, it can be images, it can be a video. Many times we'll drop a YouTube video in or other content that's engaging. You can embed activity here. You can put in, if you have something with embed code, you can drop it in as well. You'll see again in the editor. In this case, as you're just planning the activity, if it's something you want to embed, you could always copy the code here and have it ready so that whenever you move into the LMS, you just copy and paste that code. So once you have your description clear, the next piece is activity resources. Here you're going to drop in anything that is needed to complete the activity. So if you have specific links, if you have additional content that you want them to use in the completion of the activity, this is where that information would be placed. And again, here you're just typing it in, getting it ready for putting it into the LMS when you're ready. The next piece is where we establish the evidence. The evidence piece is important. This is what we're going to ask people to submit to basically show us the work, show us what you did, show us what you completed, give us the evidence that you actually completed the activity, and let us review it. So the choices are text evidence, image evidence, video evidence, link evidence, or file evidence. So essentially you can ask them to upload a file, or you can ask them to paste a link that they have found that it relates to the activity. If you've asked them to search for a link that's related to the content that you have in that activity, they can copy and paste it into that type of an evidence section. Video evidence is essentially a video file upload. Image evidence is an image upload. So if they're taking a screenshot or a photo or anything like that you want them to upload, this would be the place to do that. And then probably the most common used throughout the system is the text evidence, where it's just I'm going to type in a question, ask you to answer it, and you would type in the text. It gives the user a text box. So making your choice here as to which one of these best fits your activity, that's up to you. Think about what you really want them to do or show you, and then pick the one that best fits. So if I choose text evidence, it's going to give me a place to put that. Here we're asking you, is the evidence text, image, video, link, or file? Just put what that is here, and then describe what that is, what that file is. You can put the link here. You can put the description here of that, whatever helps you clarify that as you get into creating this piece. The next piece is describing the task that the learner needs to complete. So you want them to do the task with a little bit of a description. If it's a reflection you want, you're going to say, create a reflection in 2 to 3 sentences that describes X. Okay, so give them what you want them to do in that particular task. So if it's an image upload, take a screenshot of the page that you're on that shows that you did the example, whatever. You know what I'm you're just basically going to ask them to do what it is you need them to do to complete that task. The next piece really gets down to if you are going to have multiple pieces of evidence. You can choose to have more than one of these types of evidence available to your user. And so you could say, I need you to upload a screenshot, which would be image evidence, and then I need you to describe that screenshot for me in another piece. So you can do two different activity pieces, and then here you would say you want them to complete all. If you choose any here, that means they can have a choice. I could send you an image, I could send you a link, I could type text. You're giving your user an option if you select any. You only need one piece of evidence, so it's not necessary that you do multiple pieces. But if for some reason you feel the need to have more than one type of evidence as a part of the activity, you can certainly do that and ask them to submit all, or you can give them choices and say submit any, take your pick. The next piece deals with approval. So once your learner submits their evidence, you're going to review that evidence in the system, or somebody will review that evidence in the system. It'll either be a system admin or you yourself that reviews the evidence. These are things that we can set within the system. So here it's asking who will be designated to approve the evidence. So as system admins, we can see all of the submissions, but a specific person who is doing their own game or their own component can be designated as a specific reviewer. So if that needs to be you, or that needs to be somebody else, a supervisor or whomever, you can type that person's name here. That'll just help us know who that person needs to be. Next part, this is important, and that's why we mark it required. What's the criteria for approval? Since you may have different people reviewing this activity, you may need to have a clear definition of what that is. And you're going to put that here. What are you looking for? What do you want the reviewer to see when they look at the evidence? And you're just going to type a brief description in here for what that is. In most cases, you can just copy the question you have posed to them in the evidence section. That's enough for the reviewer to look at and say, I get it, I know what they're looking for. But you may also need to put an example in here, maybe a screenshot of what you're looking for or a sample of what you're looking for. Remember, if you're having other people review this, they might need some additional information to clarify what it is you would like the learner to do and show as evidence. The next two pieces, and the last two pieces here, are the default approval response and the default pause response. When somebody's reviewing an evidence piece that's been submitted, that reviewer has the ability to click on anything that is in the default response. So you could say, great work, nice response, thank you for your input. You can choose whatever you want that to be, and you can place that here. So then the reviewer can just do a real quick one click and drop that response into the approval. It makes it easier for the approvers, whether that's you or somebody else. It makes the process a little faster. The same holds true for anything that would be a paused response, meaning the user didn't submit the evidence that you were looking for, or the evidence wasn't right, or they maybe didn't submit anything and just kind of tried to fake their way through it. You can pause the activity in the review section, and then this response would be what you want them to do to fix it. Again, you could do a copy of what it is you asked them to do in the first place as a reminder. You might put that in here as your default response. So if you ask them to answer a question, put that question in here again and choose that as the default response. So now when the reviewer looks at the submission, they're going to see that default response, click it, boom, they're done. And it makes the process a lot faster. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't, for both of these, for the default approval and the pause response, you can override these with your own personal input. So if you ever need to do something as you're reviewing an activity, if you ever need a specific comment or something that you want to really get specific to that particular user, you can always type in something specific in those fields. And so that's really all there is to creating an activity. It's a lot. It looks like there are a lot of components here, but some of this is very repetitive. The real meat of the work happens in the activity description, in the activity resources, and your evidence pieces. That's the bulk of it. And if you get that part right in here in the planning, and you get all your resources in this one worksheet, you're going to find that moving into the LMS is a very easy process, and it'll happen very fast. You'll get the work done and transferred into the system without any trouble.